You're listening to the New World to Go podcast with your hosts, Redbyrd and BDLG.
Hello and welcome to another episode of New World to Go. I'm your host, Redbyrd, and with me is BDLG. Bordy, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Hope you had a good one. Dude, it's now December 27th. Or 8th.
Yeah, man, 28th now that we're recording this. We're a little late. Yeah. Same to you, man. I hope you had a good time. Good time
did, dude.
Always
good to get some extra time off of work and spend time with family and everything like that. We hope you guys had a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays as well. We got a good episode for you guys, I think, tonight. We're going to talk a little bit. Our main discussion, which is basically the topic of our show, is going to be about instanced content. Now, this is like kind of a hot button topic in the New World community right now because of all the changes that they're making and a lot of Reddit posts and Discord discussions on this topic. So we're going to break or go into it in depth. We've talked a little bit about it on a lot of episodes, but this one is dedicated to this and kind of what we want to see out of New World as far as instance content. Because I think we both believe, and I think a lot of people also would agree with us, that instance content is coming.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's probably inevitable, or at least it seems to be that way. But who knows? Maybe we'll get something completely unique out of this whole ordeal. I don't know, man.
We will see. But first, guys, don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, Studio YouTube channels, where all the VODs go up. Also, if you're listening to a VOD or watching a VOD, we're available on all podcasting platforms. So go download or check out the episodes over there on Apple or Android or Spotify or whatever podcasting platform you choose to use. And you can listen to us on the way to work, man. You don't have to look at these ugly mugs, on YouTube.
Hey, yo, dude, speak for yourself, man.
We're both bald, middle-aged men. There's nothing.
Yeah, but I've got a beard going. Look at this thing, man.
Our wives say that we're attractive to make us feel better.
I mean, no, I believe it when my wife tells me. You just bashed my hopes and dreams right there.
I know,
dude.
man.
You're telling me she's
lying.
Hey,
man, dude, there's some peace in knowing that, hey, man, I'm like a 6 or a 7 on a good day. You know what I mean? Then you don't have to worry about anything, impressing anybody. Anyways, this is going way off of the rails. Let's talk about the holidays message from New World. So they had like a little bit of a nice e-card for us of people sitting around the fire. And a little bit of a massive boss behind them in the postcard or the e-postcard, Bordy. People speculated on if this was maybe a newer boss or a newer mob that they're kind of leaking. But I thought the card was pretty cool, dude. You have any extra thoughts on the holiday greetings from the New World team?
No, I liked it, man. I always like whenever things like this are tweeted out by devs. It's just kind of a nice flavor, a nice touch versus just a happy holidays text. I like whenever there's something added to it. And as far as the boss goes, man, to me it just looks like the same boss. Looks like the Spriggan boss, the same one we've seen in the trailer, and the same one we've seen multiple times, which is fine. Just has some Christmas lights on it. I don't think there's anything new coming into that area, or at least not from this anyway. Yeah.
I mean, it could be something. I don't know. Like, it's hard to really have anything concrete out of a holiday card. I did also, and you mentioned this before the show, they did just put like a 4-hour video of like a fireplace within Eternum or like one of the player housing that you can kind of, I guess, maybe like put on your TV during a Christmas party or something like that for aesthetics. Which is always cool to me, stuff like that, little piece of content.
Yeah, it was a 10-hour fireplace video.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean,
10 hours. I think so. I think it's 10 hours.
Listen,
yeah,
man, 10. I mean, that's a long.
It's just loop. It's just on a loop. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's a nice,
cool.
relaxing video.
Like you mentioned about the card. I like little things, like little touches like that from the community team. It's cool. I'm glad that they did stuff like that, and happy holidays to them as well. Hopefully they enjoyed their time off from the New World grind. All right, man. So let's hop right in there. Let's not drag this out. Instanced PvP and PvE. This is a very big part of most market MMOs or most MMOs on the market right now. Obviously it takes different forms in different games. World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14, ESO, they're all a little bit different. Their approaches are all similar, but I think tweaked enough to make it a unique experience. So today we're going to talk about, kind of what we like to see out of the good sides of the PvP and PvE in those games, or typical games that we enjoy. What makes them good or enjoyable, or the unique things that kind of set them apart, and then how New World can kind of apply that, or those basic principles of these PvE and PvE type activities to service their overall goal or vision of the game. So Bordy, so let's talk about the different types of instance PvP and PvE in general MMOs, and what we'd like to see New World explore. So the first one is dungeons, Bordy. Now, this is one of the things that I'm like 99% sure that New World's going to get at some point, just because of the mechanics that they're doing, the healing, the tanking. They already have something very similar in the arenas that are instanced. So Bordy, do you think dungeons are a clear like number one for me, right? As far as the addition of instance combat goes, or concept?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'd have to agree, man. I think that we are going to get these. We've talked about this multiple times before, but it is such a hot button issue that I think it's worth diving deep into, like we're going to do on this episode. But I think that we are going to get those. Now, in terms of what that looks like in New World, I'm really hoping we get something a little bit more maybe unique. And I think one of the things that might make this unique is just the environment overall. Like, how cool is it whenever you go into an ESO dungeon and you see they do a great job with their dungeon design and just the aesthetics of the dungeon? I think New World could have that in spades, and even more so over something like an ESO, just because of the general art style and general feel of the game. I think that the dungeons could be very well designed and be an incredible experience just visually, and the way it feels whenever you walk in there. I think that would be something that could set them apart maybe from other MMOs. But in terms of like mechanics, I'm cool with just another instance dungeon, as long as it's challenging and there's some cool bosses to fight in there and it's meaningful in terms of loot and why you would want to go in there. And having repeatable content like that is really good. And so if they're going to implement it, it would need to be something that you would obviously want to run multiple times and be challenging and be engaging and fun, obviously.
I agree with you. One of the main things that they can do with the dungeon content, or the side that most games do, and I think that serves the purpose of dungeons in most MMOs, is to progress the story, exploring different storylines within the game. Also help build up the lore of the game using the stories that the dungeon bosses or the progression through the dungeon might have players do. I think difficulty or challenging group settings are a very big part of MMOs, because obviously the massively multiplayer part of the game is what makes it unique from going to play Witcher 3 or Cyberpunk or something like that. So I think these experiences with multiplayer are very vital to MMOs, and I'd like to see obviously New World add this instant content. If they're going to add it in a manner that helps build relationships and teamwork environments inside of New World, because I think that's one of the things that is lacking right now.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm just going to ask you flat out, man, do you want instance dungeons or not?
Yeah, I do.
You do? It's because sure yes from you?
It is, because, and here's why. I want to get lost in a game. Me and you have a problem, a problem right now with with something we talk about and dive into all the time. I want a game that I can log in every night knowing, like at work, that I'm going to go home and I'm going to play New World. You know what I mean? And New World's going to be that game for me for a while. And I want a game that can itch or scratch those itches that I have, as far as again, challenging content in the PvE environment. I think that's a very important thing. Something that you can use for progression as well. And yeah, dude, I as long as it's instituted in a way that is interesting, that kind of helps, again, press the storyline of New World, the lore of New World, push the, again, and this is something that's big too, as long as it gives me a reason to want to run that dungeon, as far as like maybe like a rare loot drop or like some sort of progression, like as item level and stuff like that, as long as they find ways to help players progress and like also maintain like interest in the running the dungeons, I think, yes, I do want to see them.
Okay.
How about you?
I huh?
How about you?
So my opinion is a little bit different, I think, because I think adding them now at this point in the game is fine because they're going more of the Holy Trinity route. But I do have a concern, and my concern is that New World is supposed to be a heavily PvP oriented game, and whenever you add things like instanced dungeons, that could take away from the experience of the open world undermining of the territories and the faction play that's happening there. Because I don't want to see this game go so heavily into PvE that it takes away from the PvP experience, because that's what I want out of the game. And I'm just being selfish here, I guess, because I want a good, solid PvP experience. And the PvP in New World is so fun, dude. The preview event fighting people was some of the most fun I've ever had in PvP in an MMO ever. And I want that experience all the time. And although I don't mind going into an instance to dungeon and doing that, I think that would actually be pretty fun in New World. I just don't want it to take away from the PvP experience. And the last thing I want is for this game to be mainly a PvE experience. When I thought initially and was hoping initially that this game would be more heavily geared towards PvP, which is where I'd like it to stay. So that's my only concern, is that adding this type of content could push it more into a PvE direction, which it kind of already is heading there anyway, I guess. And I don't really want that to be the case. So they're going to have to find some sort of balance there, right, to please both sides. And I think that's a challenge in any MMO, actually.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid concern. Obviously, like, maybe it is like I want my cake and to eat it too. When you talk about like, I would like the game to have both. I would like the game to have very interesting PvE and progressive like dungeons, and our next topic, raids. I would like to have those things, but also have a environment where I can be competitive in PvP and as well. And dueling definitely opens up, obviously a way to like get better at PvP and practice at PvP. So hopefully they do find new and interesting ways like dueling and like the sieges, the 50v50 things, to keep PvP a massive part of the game.
Yeah, exactly. So I think one of the things they could do, maybe, and I've said this multiple times over, is add a PvPvE dungeon. And maybe even make it an instanced dungeon that's a 5v5 type of thing. So you take in, I have my team of 5, you have your team of 5, and then even tie that, or 4, or something like that. And then even tie that into the undermining of the territory, right? So like it's a bonus thing you do. So whenever you go in there, it's basically a quest. It's instead of doing like these random run quests, you have to take your team of 4 into a dungeon, and whoever completes the dungeon then it gets the points towards their undermining of the territory or whatever. And it's like it's basically a quest you do. Yeah, like a race, basically, only there's different points where each team kind of converges. And then maybe at the end, whoever loots the golden gauntlet or whatever the heck it is, the end of the dungeon, maybe that you go take that item and you go turn it back into the mission giver, and then you get extra points towards undermining the territory. I think that kind of stuff would be dope. And then along the way, obviously, you get loot too. And I think both teams should benefit from being able to get loot and loot the stuff that they kill or whatever. But the ultimate end goal is it's just this one big quest in a dungeon, and then that helps you undermine the territory. I think that'd be fun. Something like that would be interesting.
So like maybe like a syndicate and a covenant, like, you know what I mean? A group queues in at the same time, and they're competing, or maybe like, one of each faction. That would be pretty dope as well.
Could even be one of each faction. Yeah, so like a 1v1v1.
It's a race to the middle of the, each one has a path to the middle, and it kind of like, one of the games I think does a really, really good job at instituting that PvPvE type of content is Albion Online. Their Hellgates are fantastic
pretty fun
content, dude. 2v2. Going through a dungeon, trying to kill the boss first, but also having that looming threat of having them kill you, and then just like basically, taking your gear and then whatever gear they get from the Hellgate is dope. I hope New World looks at Albion, because I really do think that the MMO market is lacking an Albion type of game, like as far as the amount of content and player-driven economy and everything like that. open world experience, but in a action combat setting, something that, like in New Worlds, with New Worlds combat, on top of like those interesting like experiences like Hellgates and the Black Zone. Dude, if New World can find ways to institute, like you're saying, that PvP feel that a lot of people are looking for inside of an environment that also supports PvE players, watch out, because New World could then be one of the bigger MMOs on the market for sure.
Yeah, I think so. I think something a little more intricate than the Hellgates, though, like almost an actual dungeon. But yeah, something along the lines of that, I think would work great. But I would like to see that tied somehow into the undermining system, because that's the whole premise of the game, right? Unless they want to rework that altogether or something.
Well, okay, so yeah, maybe the PvP questing, gives a little bit of influence in the territory. So the dungeons, they're more time consuming, also higher risk. Maybe they just have like a massive chunk of influence. Like once you win over, like maybe the boss is like, some sort of like wicked beast that like once you beat him, like you gain a lot of influence in the territory because you defeated like this mythic or this legendary monster that was like terrorizing that territory. So then you get more influence in there for the people. That'd be dope, dude. It'd be cool to see them tie that in, and that's a great idea. For sure. And I like that. That's something that I don't think a lot of MMOs explore, is the PvE side of things, and combining the two experiences that I think, you get a decent amount of people that are interested in both. So
yeah, and I think that type of content would be fun. And that's not to say that I don't think there should be PvE strictly dungeons too, that you go in and run for loot. I think that content's great too. I just want to see the PvP
you said you
side
hated
of things.
That, and you don't.
I didn't say I hated it. I just said I don't want them to water down the PvP experience by adding nothing but PvE dungeons. I want PvP in New World, man. That's what I want.
I feel you, dude. Yeah. And I think we're gonna get it, man. I really do. Dueling is a big step in the right direction. And they continue to tweak the PvP quests and stuff like that. So I think, and we're going to talk a little bit about this at the end. I think they're going to add some things that are going to appease the PvP side of things, because that is a big part of their community right now. I think so, is people that were interested in the full loot PvP thing that they had cooking at the beginning of the New World concept. So next, Bordy, is raids. Raids, Bordy. I have a long history of raiding in MMOs. I love it. I enjoy it. Hey, man, I wasn't going to go there, but I will. If
it's happening. Just
anyway,
go ahead and say it.
No, dude, I'm not going to. Okay, so basically, I think getting together with a large group of people and having to coordinate your actions and push yourselves as far as like completing content goes is one of the most pleasurable experiences in video games ever. Destiny, the raiding in Destiny is like one of my favorite raiding experiences and video game experiences as a whole, and it's such a unique take on raiding as far as MMOs go that really has me excited for the potential of adding raids to a game like New World. Hopefully they take raids and do something different like Destiny did and Destiny 2 did to the genre that we've never seen before, man. And I really do hope that New World adds raids to the game. So Bordy, if New World does venture down that path of large group, very coordinated PvE, are you going to be okay with that? Is that going to be something that you put on your grandpa hat on and you start to get off my lawn to everybody, or what is your take on raiding?
I don't know, man. I'm very mixed on raiding, right? Like, I think that it's a fun experience. I really do. I enjoy raids in video games. I don't know if it's the most pleasurable video game experience that I have like you do. I don't think I share that same sentiment. I would rather do other things in MMOs than go do a big 40-man raid. To me, sometimes those big 40-man raids can get to be a little bit too much. And I prefer, I've always been more of a small scale guy on every aspect. PvP, PvE, whatever. I like to get a group of 3 to 4 friends together, and that's where I like to go. That's where the challenge is to me. That's where the fun is to me. I don't like to be in Discord with 39 other people and have to take orders from one person. I like to coordinate together as a team. I don't want somebody to tell me to shut up on comms so they can just tell me what to do and when to do it. I'm not trying to do that, man. Like that's not my idea of fun whenever I'm playing an MMO. I don't enjoy that really. Now I have been involved in raids that are a lot of fun and it's a good time, but my concern even further than that is how do they implement raids in New World in a manner that makes sense, right? Like right now with the current model of New World, I can see how dungeons maybe would make sense, but adding a big 40-man raid, what do you do with that? Like what is that? What is the purpose of having a 40-man raid in New World? I don't see it right now. Maybe later on, but I don't know what that would be.
Listen, Bordy, I know you're old. A little
bit. Hey,
man. World of Warcraft hasn't had 40-man raids for a long time. This is why I brought up Destiny, is because Destiny has 6-man raids. It's really fun. It's really coordinated. New World, I hope, dungeons, maybe they have 4-man dungeons, and maybe their raids are 8-man raids. And then that still is in the flavor of what New World I think does, which is create an intimate experience and have purpose of territory control. And again, it's really hard for them to get away from that at this point, right? Because the entire game is built around the management of territories and the sieging and the invasion of these territories by PvE mobs or PvP mobs. So I think the question is, or for us to figure out, or kind of theorize about, is how do they do that in a large group PvE setting? How do they make those raids significant to the way that territory changes hands, or the influence of the different factions within the territory? So I think where we start to look is invasions, man. Invasions are a 50-man experience where 50 people of a faction have to fend off a large horde-like amount of enemies. So how, if they're going to add raids or that medium-sized group, I guess, of 8 to 12 people, how can they find ways to institute that, but still keep that flavor of the game where, a lot of it is us as adventurers maintaining our position or our hold on Eternum. How can they institute raiding and still stay within that flavor?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought up invasions, because that you do make a good point there. So maybe they could tie in raids somehow to maintaining control of the territory versus gaining. Maybe you could use dungeons in a manner to gain control of the territory, to undermine the territory, and then your raids could somehow tie into the big invasions. Invasions are really cool. Maybe if you beat the 50-man invasion, maybe then you take your top 8 scoring people that scored in the invasion, and then they have to go through a tougher version of a raid. Yeah, maybe they have to go through the portal, and then if they successfully complete the raid, maybe then their town gets a buff. Maybe then their settlement, their territory gets some sort of buff for X amount of time or something like that. That would be cool. Something like that would be really neat. So then that not only does that incentivize you to win the invasion, because if you lose the invasion, obviously your settlement gets downgraded. We know that. So, but maybe that incentivizes you to be one of the top performers in the invasion, the top 8 or whatever, so that then you get to go on to the next stage of the invasion to help your team do even better. I don't know. Something like that might be pretty neat.
I like the idea of having the raid open up an experience for other people. Maybe if your faction beats as a certain raid, then maybe another experience or something happens in the territory that you're in. Like you're saying, you either maintain your influence or, on the basic level, maintain your influence or gain influence depending on what faction you are and what territory you're doing the raid in. There is some interesting information out there, Bordy, or some speculation about the Shattered Mountain and what exactly is happening on the top of that bad boy. Because what seems to be happening is there's a portal above the mountain sucking it into somewhere or something. Yep. So that could be like our first maybe taste of a raid, is going into into that separate territory and maybe recognizing exactly what a tournament is, or the evil, the corruption, or the Azoth, those two things, the origins of those and why they're going on, maybe is like a bigger thing. And I could see the raid just simply being something like that, progressing the story of a New World into the first big expansion or piece of content that we're going to get, or exploring what is Shattered Mountain and what is the goal of the corruption and all that stuff. So raiding, obviously, on the base level could serve that for New World as well, just a way to progress the actual main storyline. So
maybe. So I think my big qualm and my biggest issue with any instanced content, especially in New World, is I want it to tie into the bigger picture of what's going on in the game, right? Like I want it to tie into the overall game loop of this whole territory control, exchanging hands type of thing, because that is kind of the major mechanic of the game. And if they don't do that, it's going to water that experience down so much, because people are just going to be running this PvE content. So then what's the point in PvP? So I want them to somehow, if they do add instance content, I want it all to somehow tie together to the overall bigger picture of what the core gameplay is of the game. That's my biggest issue, biggest concern with this.
So, content. And I know this could cause some distribution of population within the three factions. But what if you can only do a raid? Like raids are tied to territories, and you can only do the raid if your particular faction is in control of that territory at that time. Same with dungeons. They could make it to where, and I've always thought this is a really interesting mechanic to dive into in MMOs. What if it is solely based off of your control of a territory, that you have access to these PvE experiences that drops valuable material or gear or items that you can only obtain in these dungeons. So kind of like where, maybe a particular area is like the best place to get oil, or like we know Reekwater is the best place to go fishing. So what if we had like these territories that, maybe for instance, Reekwater has a dungeon that only if your faction or maybe even company controls the that particular, it's gonna have to be faction, let's be real, faction that controls the settlement, then you get access to this dungeon or raid that you can go into, and the boss drops this exotic fishing pole that helps you. That is the only place you can get it inside of the game. It drops, or maybe even like this piece of material that allows you to craft a legendary fishing pole or something like that. I think they can really, that to me helps incentivize the change of hands of settlements and territory, because those experiences, like people want to experience those. They want their fishermen, or they want their fishermen or their blacksmiths to have the best gear or whatever. So I think those are interesting ways they can use to incentivize the change of hands of territory and also create unique PvE experiences.
Yeah, I think ideas like that would be fine, and that'd be a way to tie it in. I'm not sure what other issues or whatever that might institute with the game. I'd have to brainstorm on that a little bit. But yeah, I think that things like that could work, and I hope that they explore those types of options instead of just saying, here's a random dungeon, and no matter what faction owns it or whatever, anybody can go in there and do this at any time, and really all you're going in there for is loot. And there's, I hope there's a lot more to it if they do, implement some instanced content like this.
Agreed. All right. So here's our favorite thing to talk about. And that is PvP, the instance PvP. And really the one thing that makes sense to me is arena or small group organized PvP. So, Bordy, what's your take on arenas or whatever they obviously they wouldn't be called arenas in New World. They already have arenas, but what type of instance PvP would you like to see added to New World?
I enjoy just like arenas or battleground type of PvP that's like 4v4, that's some kind of ranked competitive arena or something. I think ESO does a great job at theirs. I keep referencing ESO because we played it, for a long time, and it had some really good small scale 4v4 battlegrounds, which is very similar to how it would be in New World. Yeah. You would have, three factions, so you could have 4v4s, and those work really well in there. I have a blast playing those in ESO, and I think New Worlds could be even more fun because I think the combat in New World is better. Exactly. But again, it goes back to what are you doing it for? Like, what's the purpose in running those? In ESO, there is no purpose. You go in there and you run them and you can get some gear, but the gear is not that great and it's not ranked. So you're just going in there running them basically for fun or to complete a daily or something like that, which is exactly what I don't want to have happen in New World. I don't want to have to run a battleground a day or whatever just to get extra XP or that's terrible to me. I don't like doing that. So I hope that they give you a reason to go in there. Maybe it is ranked, maybe it's just a ranked play where you can queue up and play and then you can show your skills off and then you can try to climb the rankings and it's more of a competitive environment type of thing. But at the end of the day, again, like how much does that take away from the other experiences in the game that you're supposed to be experiencing as an MMO? If you have such a good arena system that all anybody wants to do is queue up for that to PvP and they don't care to go do the open world PvP, right? So as much as I'm for it, I think they got to be careful in balancing those things because you don't want to take away from the core experience of the game, right? Why would I go out into the open world in PvP and undermine the faction when I can just queue up and have all the PvP I want whenever I want it, through arenas? I don't know. I think there has to be a reason to do it. And then they have to make the faction warfare, the exchanging of territory incentivized somehow too.
Yeah, and I think that would be a good problem to have if all the players just like their instance PvP is so good that players just want to do that all the time. Obviously, I think one of the ways that MMOs can really, I think, strive to maintain multiple types of player bases is having different ways to obtain the same thing. So, like, if I'm a PvP player and I just want a PvP, then maybe I do want to do arenas to help my faction gain influence inside of a particular territory, and I don't want to go mess with the PvE quests or even the PvP quests, let's be honest, because the PvP quests at this point are just fetch quests for PvE. I mean, you might run into somebody, but it's not guaranteed. So I would rather, like, if arenas helped my faction gain control of a particular territory, then I would definitely rather do the arenas than do the other types of ways that I could do that. Obviously, that seems to be like the thing that makes sense. Obviously, tying the arena system into some form or fashion of influence within these territories. And I'm with you. And I think ESO, like, dude, and let's be honest with our audience. I don't know if we've talked about this on the podcast or on a podcast at all, but one of the things that like sealed the deal with me and you as content creators in ESO is the lack of support for PvP players. They had so many awesome, I think, in my opinion, awesome things that they could have done with the arena system and even Cyrodiil that they just never really ever like seemed to even think about or like be a priority for them, like to progress like a rated system in arenas or having Cyrodiil mean something as far as like other than just like getting Emperor and everything like that. And that's something I don't want to see New World go to. I don't want, like, again, they're starting from the ground and working up. Right now is the time for them to spend extra time on finding new, unique ways to tie in all their systems together with these new experiences that we're talking about. And I think that's very important. I would rather see them only institute dungeons on launch and spend time integrating raids and arenas or whatever they're going to add into a way that makes sense into the game to where, like, in the future, as they add more and more content, it just becomes more and more entwined with the overall like purpose of New World or the progression in New World. So I stand by you there.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of MMOs kind of get lost. It's like, oh, well, let's just throw in dungeons or let's just throw in this cool arena system because players are asking to have this battleground that they can queue up for. Yeah, and it's like, that's great. Like, it's really fun. I'm glad you guys added that. But now what? We just queue in and it means nothing at the end of the day. Like, you just do it. It's fun. And a lot of players queue, and I found myself oftentimes playing ESO, and I would just queue into the battlegrounds. But I think that's a bad thing to have. Is that you log in and that's all you do in the game. It needs to tie in overall somehow to the overall concept of the rest of the game. And I think New World is in this unique experience with the territory control that they can tie in all this stuff to the core aspects of New World. And like same thing with like Cyrodiil and ESO, man. You go in there, but it doesn't really it doesn't really mean anything. You go in there and you fight, it's fun. You can fight for territory, but at the end of the day, like, what are you doing in the overall game loop of the game? You're not really doing anything. So I hope that New World finds a way to tie all of these things together. And I think that would be ideal. And I think it'd be awesome. And I think it'd be a much more enjoyable experience.
Well, I think there's a fine line between trying to get people to log in daily to your game. Obviously,
daily quests are not the answer.
Right.
That's
exactly.
Not the answer.
Right. Exactly. So there's a fine line between that, just strictly trying to get people to log in, and to having meaningful ways to progress, or feel like players are progressing. And I think that's one of the main things is, obviously, like, people could ask the question, like, well, what is the purpose of any of this? Playing a video game is just simply for fun. So if we're having fun playing, arenas or raiding or whatever, then technically we are getting the value out of the game. But I think also, as far as the MMO goes, I think there are some unique ways that players can progress, or that you can have people, dedicate their time to the game in a more meaningful way, other than just like, well, I've already spent 200 hours in this game, I just log in and get my, daily dungeon done or whatever like that.
Yeah. I hate dailies, man. I really do. I despise having to do. It feels like a job. It's like, oh man, I have to log in because I have to do this daily, when I don't really, I'm not logging in because it's so much fun. I can't get off the game. I'm logging in because it becomes a job at that point. Like, I gotta log in to get my daily reward. I gotta dude, come on, man. Let's find some way. Just make the game good, and then you want that problem.
Sure. And again, this is the conundrum, I think. And I think New World's in a good place right now for this discussion, because like we had mentioned before, I think it's very important for them to find unique ways to institute these things. And obviously that's a challenge, but also hopefully it's one that makes New World, a better game, keeps people interested for long time periods to come, and as they add more and more content, they'll have this shell of kind of the overall purpose of New World, what we're trying to do as far as like territory management and all that. Once they find that identity, then they can just continue to expand upon that as the life of the game progresses. So.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, that was a great discussion. I hope you guys had a good time as well. Let us know in the comments, what would you guys like to see New World add, and how would you guys implement, dungeons, raids, and arenas, this instance-based content in New World in a fashion that still maintains the identity of the game, which I think is very, very important. Because we don't just want to see like, hey, yeah, here's the dungeon you wanted, and it has literally nothing to do with anything. So I don't think they're going to do that. I think they have been doing a great job right now of continuing to listen to player feedback and what people want. And dude, that is one of the things that people have been clamoring for, is instance content or more mid to late game content. And so that these definitely fall into that category. So we'll see if that's what happens. All right, man. Yeah. Well, I will give it to you. Our company of the week.
Yeah, company of the week this week is Knights of Ozem. They're a North American company. Faction is the Covenant. Language English speaking. Focus is PvX. Size 1 to 10. So they want to be a smaller company, sounds like. They are currently recruiting. So I'm going to read this little thing here. They have a cool little description of their guild or their company, and kind of a little RP thing here. So I'm going to read it for you guys. It says, sure. The Knights of Ozem are an honored legion of holy warriors dedicated to holding the line against both the scourge of the undead and the demons pouring forth into the world through the corrupted breaches. Ooh, sounds dope, dude. Often operating in the shadows. Ooh, like an assassin group. The group rose to some prominence among the militant orders some centuries past during the crusades by spearheading the defense of pilgrims and crusaders alike from the dire threat of the undead. Now finding themselves on the shores of Eternal, they have pledged their blades to the Covenant in an effort to bolster their ranks and continue their holy crusade against evil. So this is kind of the first time we've seen some little RP backstory specific to New World in a company. I think this is really, really dope. So they say that they are a semi-casual PvX company seeking English-speaking players from all regions, and it says their core group is located in the East Coast of North America, and they are looking for and wanting to experience all aspects of New World. And you have to be at least 16 years or older to get access to this company. So that is the Knights of Ozem. So go check them out on newworldfans.com. And of course, we'll make sure the link to all of their information is in the descriptions on all the podcasting platforms and the YouTube video below.
Yeah, and we appreciate that again for you guys taking the time to create an account to promote your guild over there. Thank you for that. And dude, guilds like this are what the core game is going to be built around. People enjoying the RP aspect, some people enjoying the social aspect, some people enjoying the competitive aspect. It's awesome to see these different guilds and their interest in New World and the, their part in the community. So I love to hear the role playing stuff, the backstory and everything like that. It's got me hyped for what is to come in the New World community, man. Hearing more things like that. So, all right, dude. Well, it's been another great episode, Bordy. Why don't you tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, man. Twitch.tv/BDLG. Twitter is at the BDLG. And then, of course, creating a lot of YouTube content over on youtube.com/StudioLoot.
Yes, and I'm Redbird with a Y. You can find me at Twitch over there. Under that handle on Twitter, I am Redbird is my @ over there. Yeah, we are pumping the YouTube content out. We've had a ton of support over there from you guys. We thank you for that. The channel's growing at a pretty crazy rate, at least from what we're used to. So we're very thankful for you guys subbing and hitting the notification bell and all that stuff. We're very grateful, and we're going to keep putting out content for you guys, New World content especially. We're extremely excited about the game over here and at New World Fans. We thank you guys for being part of the community, and we're excited, man. We got episode 50 is looming, dude. So we're going to try to get something good going for that. So we hope you guys tune in for that as well. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. We really can't say enough of thank yous for you guys continuing through the development of this game, the delays and all that. We're just grateful to have you guys. And we will see you on another episode of New World to Go.